Hi, this is Bruce, and welcome to another installment of the IT Shop. This is a series of videos that I'm putting out about the business side of technology. And it's proven to be quite a number of you enjoy these videos. And even if you're not a business owner, you're thinking about a business, or you're managing a business, whatever. It's just my attempt and my way to share what I've learned over the years with you folks, and hopefully you get something out of it. Well, the title of this episode is called Know Thy Numbers. And what's prompted me to do this, there's a CNBC show called The Profit with Marcus Lemonis. And I'm a big fan of this show. It is a scripted reality show, so bear that in mind, but there are some truths in it and certain things I've seen over the years from a plethora of small business owners that I've known, and even mistakes I've made on my own. And the first thing is, when you see a business is in trouble, any business is in trouble, and you talk to the owner, a lot of times, probably more times than not, they truly don't know their numbers. And when we say know your numbers, what are we referring to? Well, they don't know what their actual cost of goods or services really are. They don't really have a clue. They kind of ballpark or guesstimate, but they don't know to the penny what it costs to actually make that product. So if you don't know what it costs to make and sell a product, then you have no idea what your gross margin is. And your gross margin is basically your cost of goods, or your top line, your total gross revenue minus the cost of goods, and that's going to be your gross margin. And a lot of these companies have terrible gross margins. This is not including their overhead. So it's very easy to see how these little businesses end up not only unprofitable, but deeply in debt, because every day they stay open, they lose more and more money. Now, what is an acceptable gross margin? Well, let's talk a little bit more about gross margin. So gross margin, generally speaking, you take the costs to make a product. That's going to be material, the freight to get it to your factory, your business, the cost of labor to make it, everything to get it ready for sale, from raw material to a finished product ready for sale. That's your cost of goods. And that includes the labor. It includes, things like if you've got a little factory, let's say, the cost of the depreciation on the machines, everything that it actually costs to make that product. And that's your cost of goods. And so you subtract that, or you take the sales price, subtract the cost of goods, and that's going to be the difference is your gross margin. Take that number, divide it into the sales price, and then you've got a percentage that will tell you what your gross margin is. So what is a healthy gross margin? Well, it really depends on the business. A big retail store, if they're doing a lot of volume, they're going to do pretty well on 25% margin, let's say. But most small businesses seem to be operating between 25 to 35% gross margins. But some businesses have higher margins than others. Jewelry store might have a 50 or 60 or even 70% gross margin. It really depends. But you need to have to the penny, an idea of what it costs you to provide your product or your service. Now, services have, generally speaking, a much higher margin. That's why people in the IT industry, at one time they used to sell computers, right? And they sold printers and they sold all this stuff to their clients in addition to the services. But they've gotten away from that because the gross margins just are not there on dealing with hardware anymore. So now they rely almost entirely on services because that's where the margins are at. Talking to a friend of mine a few years ago, take the software industry. Gross margins of around 80% are not unheard of. Software is a hugely profitable business. As a matter of fact, his favorite saying is, God bless software. And rightfully so. 80% margins. That, you know what that means? That means they sell a $100 license of software. Their cost to produce that software was only $20. 80% goes towards paying the fixed expenses, the rent, the insurance, the utilities, etc. The rest of it's the net profit. Take your fixed costs out of that, and then you have your net profit. So it's amazing. In my case right now, my services business has a gross margin of around 67%. And that's because I pay my people very, very well. I believe in paying people very, very well. So I have a little bit smaller gross margin, but it's still a respectable and healthy margin. We start businesses, and I hope your business or what you're planning on doing, the primary goal is to make people's lives better, solve problems for people, because the money will follow. But if the money is not following you and you're not profitable, then you won't be able to continue with your mission and make the world a better place through your products or services. You have to be very realistic. You have to be profitable. But if you don't know your numbers, then it's time that you learn them before it's too late. And for some companies, well, you can live in denial, you can guesstimate, you can kind of turn a blind eye, but the ultimate result is going to end up a business failure, and that's not good. And that is what I want to talk about today on this installment of the IT Shop. Keep an eye on the bottom line, but even more importantly, keep an eye on those gross margins. Keep an eye on those margins. I'm telling you, that's where your money is at. Make sure you know to the penny what it costs you to produce your service or produce your product. Bruce Naylor, I'll talk to you later.